call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock Central Time, 6 o'clock Eastern. And what do you want to talk about, Mr. Mayo?
Well, I think I'll go by the agenda. We'll be sending out the year-end results, I guess tomorrow. We do have the report is completed. The departments did very well under Kevin's tutelage. Departments returned a little over $2 million back to the town.
Oh, Don just joined
That's
us.
Don. Beautiful.
Don's on.
I got him. Yep,
he's coming.
He's muted, but he's coming.
Yeah,
In a car.
So return 2 million.
Return 2 million. Don, you're on mute. Still on mute. There you go.
There he is.
Is that better?
That is better.
Excellent. Welcome back.
Departments returned. I was just going over last year, Dawn, fiscal year 24 year end. The report is completed. Kevin and mine, mainly Kevin's very pithy report, as I like to say. That will be item 1 at town meeting. That shows that the departments returned a little over $2 million to the town. We also had returns from snow and ice of 273,000. A very, very good year. Again, the largest department that returned was group insurance. That's about half of our returns there. I say it every year. This year, I mean it. I don't expect those returns again. We're actually having, seems like more people that were off are coming in. A combination of, the young kids we hired that turned 26. I think a combination of some people just had opted out and are coming back in. And some new hires, not so much in town hall, but elsewhere.
Well, the GIC is pushing up their rates a lot, so we may lose some there too.
Yeah.
I think that I had a consultant come in a couple of weeks ago, and as you know, the rates went up significantly on the plans this year, between 8 and 12%. This consultant told me that's going to be the norm for the next several years. So, I mean, So I mentioned it, I had actually mentioned this to Dan at another meeting that we had, but so I've been projecting 5% increases a year. I'm moving that up to 7% in my forecast, and we'll see what happens now. We won't know until about February or so.
If we're lucky.
If we're lucky.
I think it's usually March when we get the.
February, March.
That there and on that side, so I'm really pretty happy with all of that.
Excuse me, the school's return was
The school's return was
27.
Transfer to revenue of 79 for education, but that includes library.
okay.
I think it was 27 from the school,
27,000.
27,000,
They
Oh,
did
I thought
encumber.
$27.
Yeah.
27,000 and then 52 from
Did they prepay any of?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
half a million.
Yeah.
That is I think that is a discussion for this year. We've already kind of broached that with them, Kevin and I, that, it's great to prepay, but that's, I don't know if we can continue to afford that all the time.
Yeah. Depends on the circumstances.
Yes.
Especially with the next borrowing.
The next borrowing, we really kind of want to keep our free cash as high as we can for the next borrowing, which will be in the fall on the next leg of high school. Yeah,
How much is that going to be?
that'll be another 100, basically 100 million.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. In terms of the rates are changed. So I know you probably spoke to Hilltop. I spoke to them the other day. So they're looking at, they say in the terms of projections on a 30-year, maybe go at 4%. But actually they're saying the market's pretty good. You might get below that.
Yeah, we got below that this time. When we went out to the community, we presented it at over 5%. So it's going to come in less.
Oh, yeah, no,
than we thought.
you had a couple of scenarios which were both higher than where the market is now, which is good news.
Yeah. So we're happy with that, with that result. And even though they downgraded our outlook, which I think I shared with some of you, was really kind of a very interesting discussion. I had always thought that 10% reserves was excellent, considering that we also fully fund, the ARC and OPEB and are on a good schedule on retirement. They really wanted 15%, which I think is very hard for us to get to 15%. And they didn't like Dan's rate on our OPEB.
Which is really, really silly. What do they want?
Wakefield's doing
6%?
well on the open.
I know.
Yeah.
What's everybody else's
Doing better than
bond
I'm
rating?
doing.
What's everybody else's bond rating? look
What
like?
did they want? They wanted 6% or 5.5%? What did they
Yeah,
want?
something like that, yeah.
Oh, they-
Is there- I mean,
On the discount rate,
Oh,
yeah.
the discount rate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the GIC's been averaging for us over 8%, and they want us to go to 6%. It's like, no, that's
Yeah.
stupid.
So,
Yeah. But it was it was interesting, but I think part of it is we're borrowing $200 million, so or
Yeah.
$100 million. So part of it is
It's a big
like
step.
big step. You borrow and your credit score goes down the
Yeah.
day after you close. So
Yeah.
I don't know, was that your takeaway, Kevin?
It was, and we did push back where it's all outside Proposition 2.5, that, it isn't like it's straining the budget.
Burdensome on the daily budget.
Generally, they're okay if it's 2.5%.
Right.
The bond holder's gonna get paid. It's,
But-
yeah.
We're
I
concerned about
tax fatigue.
taxpayer fatigue.
Fatigue they brought up. None of them look like they pay taxes to me, by the way, on the call.
Well,
This is
I mean,
S&P,
still,
S&P.
S&P, yeah.
yeah, I mean, our tax rate is still pretty good compared to other communities around us.
Yeah, but let's face it, it's gone up between Galvin and now this.
Right.
It's not an unreasonable statement. That being
yeah.
said, what is it? What's the rest of the story, right? What does it take to operate? And you've been under 2.5 for a number of years, right?
Oh, yeah, we have not issued a operational at all.
What I mean to say is,
Oh, there's a few years, there are probably half the time we have not gone the full tax levy, the full
Yeah.
2.5 levy.
But
We will this
you
year.
haven't done overrides.
We have not done any.
It's happening right
Yeah.
now in a lot of communities here in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I tell you,
All points we made.
you can try to make an override. You'd never get an operational override in this town. I don't think, right?
No, you haven't needed to,
Yeah. No, I get it.
because, it's conservative budgeting.
So anyways, I don't know. I was very happy. I'll send out the report. I was pleased. I think the department heads, they really try hard. They work hard. They're in constant communication with us. We certainly were constantly looking at the numbers anyway, but they if they can do without, they do. And I give them a lot of credit for that. So we're very happy.
Right. Good.
Dan, you want to jump to your forecast?
I could do that. Let me do the share screen.
Yep. You have ability to do that, so you should be able to.
And why do I not see? Oh, here we go. Show all windows. That's what it wasn't doing. All right, can you guys see that?
Yep.
Yep.
All right,
Yeah.
do I need, should I make it bigger?
Yeah, zoom it in a little bit. Zoom it some more.
How's that?
Lonnie, thanks for me anyway.
That's good.
That's good, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I've done is updated all the stuff for 24. So for example, state receipts, local receipts, we had a great year, right? We had 7.8 a couple of years ago, then jumped to 9.1, and then it jumped to almost 11 for 24. And Kevin I think has said, I heard, rumor has it, he's going to put in 8 for 25, or if I just give my normal increase, I'm looking at 11.3. And because of the fact that we've done so well, we actually have a negative free cash amount of 2.5 million. But if I look down here in terms of surplus or deficit. I mean, for 25, I'm looking at a whopping $23,000 deficit right now.
Mhm.
So, I
Excuse
mean,
me,
that's,
last year, I just happened to grab a few items, but you thought you'd exceed local receipts by 1.5. In April, around April, we thought would exceed local receipts by about 1.5 mil.
yeah, we did
Any
much
idea how
better than
that
that.
took out with that number? This is an email from Steve.
Uh,
I don't know if you had if you knew, if you don't know, it's fine.
I'm not sure if the head of the lake, was that when that came in? or
Yeah,
Which was 1.5 million.
Was that building permit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
was that over Kevin's number or Dan's number?
well, it's an email from you, to us, so I don't really know.
I think it was
don't-
Kevin's number.
Yeah, it was sort of your end, I'd asked a couple of questions and you provided me that.
Yeah,
End of year.
Yeah.
Just a
Oh, yeah, I was under,
quick summary.
we overperformed, absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, by millions. So the other thing I was talking to Steve this afternoon, and I had 1.4 million here for new construction. And Victor came back and said it's really 1,099,998, 980.
Has that been
So-
certified by DOR? Did he submit the LA 13?
Yes.
Yes.
And that's the number that came back, huh?
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
The culprits there was some late starting on some of the construction. So if you roll out, so Kevin and I, after I scolded Victor terribly for
Putting that number out
putting
there.
that number out there, I asked him to kind of look at some of our bigger projects that hadn't, what he was going to project in them for the next few years. And on the larger projects for, things like 200, 400 corner powered, that's going up, the assessed value in fiscal year 25 was 19.6. It's going to jump up to 74.2
Yeah,
in January 1st, 2026. So I think where Dan's going forward at 114, 1190 on new construction, I actually feel those are very, very conservative numbers, just based on Victor looking at some of the larger projects in town.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
that's
I think the
okay.
1144 is just way too low at
Yeah.
this point because of that delay. And we had the same
Yeah.
thing with the power line. The power line kept
Yeah.
getting pushed out, and we had
Yeah.
to keep moving, $500,000 or $1 million. We had to keep pushing it out.
But that came in all at one fell swoop. I think on
Right,
these larger projects where I think Victor would, sometimes thinks, maybe we're gonna get a third as the construction goes along. They just seem to be starting so much later, all of them. And I don't know why. I mean, we have a lot of places that are approved. Mike's Gym is approved. That hasn't started yet.
seeing a little bit of this stalling, given the
Yeah.
interest rates and whatnot.
Yeah, either interest
they're not
rates or-
moving as quickly.
The good news is that it'll smooth forward. And I think 1-1 for this year is certainly,
But that's very conservative, right? So
I think going forward is conservative.
we should keep an eye on it, I guess.
Yeah.
Depending upon.
Right.
Yeah. The one, I mean, I could easily dump, another 300,000 into 26.
Yeah, I would say so,
Yeah.
easily going forward. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So this is what, it's very small deficits. And if I do adjust that 114 figure, let's see if let's say I just add 300 grand here. Now the deficits are really pretty minuscule.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that may be more realistic going forward. The other thing is this, let's see, this is
Again,
also
we're looking at
nice.
26, right? Yeah,
Yeah, that's
Well,
26.
25 and 26, yeah. But 25, we know.
correct. Yeah,
And-
okay.
And then there seems to be a disagreement in terms of the free cash. Like, for example, in order to balance to free cash, this 3.5 million is a plug that says, okay, we had 8.581. We spent 430,000 in the fall and the spring. And then the change becomes 3469 because our free cash at the end of 24 was over 11.6 million. So Kevin gave me this 500,000 going forward as what we expect to return. We just heard that this number was, a million, over a million. So I don't know, Kevin, you still sticking by your 500,000?
Yeah, I think that's a safe number, Dan, that the group health insurance budget, like Ed said, GIC is went up 10% in fiscal 25. And when we budgeted 25, I think we only increased that budget 1% because we had such a large
Surplus.
surplus in that for the past couple of years. So that $1 million we anticipate using this year. That so I see minimal. I'm hoping for minimal returns from that this year.
Okay.
But my feeling is, as I'm gonna have my nice glass of Opus red wine and my steak that Kevin's gonna buy me, and Dan, I think that 500,000 represents not only returns from departments, but maybe receipts exceeding a little bit.
Well, remember, I'm using 11 million on
Yeah,
local receipts.
I know,
So
but I think that
Right.
I think that okay. I mean, I'm happy with the 5. I'm 500,000. I'm not going to fight it, but I think that we're going to be pleasantly surprised when all this shakes out.
well, we certainly were surprised here. I mean, we had
Yeah.
2 million, 4 million,
Yeah.
3.5 million. So yeah.
Yeah, I
All
mean,
right,
the
we'll see what
last 2
happens.
years, last year we returned 2 million. In the previous year, we returned 2 million.
Yeah, but half of that was always health.
Right, and we won't get that this
You
year.
won't get that this year.
Okay,
Right.
I've never heard that before.
No, I've always said I can't expect it to return. It's in I'll show you my notes, my script.
Sorry, you're gonna say
So,
something, Kevin?
The only other thing on, Dan, on your receipts for this year, the only thing I'll caution is that one-time building permit for the head of the lake of 1.5 million that we received in 24, we're not receiving in 25. So we'll eventually see it in new growth, but for the estimated receipts, that could be a little bit high.
Yeah, and I would agree with you because I think this 10.9 number does include some one-time stuff that doesn't really track well with the history. We're at 7.8, 7.9, 9.1. I could see this number really being closer to 10.
Yep.
Just because of the one-time stuff. Yeah, I don't disagree.
So Kevin and I in our tax recap are using 8 million
For
local receipts.
Yeah.
Really keeping in our line with, we were 7.5 million last year. We don't want to have the DOR get too squirrely on it. They're very happy and they've already approved everything. Correct?
Not on the tax recap.
Not a tax recap because we haven't had town meeting.
Right.
Okay. Which means that we will be utilizing, in our opinion, 3.8. 3.85 of free cash to balance the budget.
Sure.
9 is actually low. I would say I would be more comfortable with 10
Ooh.
there.
95? 95 million?
95,000. Yeah, that's Kevin and I will retire. 1,000 we're leaving tomorrow.
All right, there's 10 million.
Which is kind of where I
See-
thought you were going to end up, Dan, frankly.
Yeah,
at 10 million.
I think the 10 million is probably reasonable. It
Yeah.
gives us a deficit of about 1.3 million. We'll have to take out of free cash.
Right. And when we're using 8, there's a 2.5 difference. Yeah.
Right, and then what it does to our free cash position, yeah, we head down, we hit negative, the way things are set up right now.
End of year. Yeah, but it takes, let's see, we keep going. Yeah.
It takes, I mean, if you get higher here or, yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
If it is just 10 million, and then normal inflation after that. We got to find some money someplace. Let's see, I got debt service, stabilization. And our reserves now for the end of 24 at 13%, but it very quickly drops below 10 at 27.
And what did S&P say, the target that they preferred,
They-
15%?
We pushed
15.
back. Yeah, they wanted between like 12 and 15, which I thought was kind of unrealistic, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
But hey, we were at 13. If we came in around here next year, I would think we would maintain. Because
how do
we're
you
showing-
build up the stabilization? Do you appropriate free cash to stabilization?
We would appropriate that. We haven't done that in a while at town meeting. Right now, we are building up stabilization mainly because of interest in the stabilization fund.
Yeah,
Right,
Yeah.
we skipped 24, we skipped 21.
Yeah.
We only did 100,000 in a couple of years, 22 and 23. Yeah,
But the 500,000 change up above is likely going to be greater than that.
I believe.
It's not going to be 2 million as
Yeah.
you described,
Yeah.
but it's going to be closer to 1 million.
And
in
I
my
think
opinion.
if you drop the expected receipts in Dan's model to 10 million,
Which you
then, which you did, then I do think that change is gonna be more. Because we'll exceed the 10 million.
Okay.
I believe we will.
got it.
So I think that the trade-off is, I think that will come in a little bit higher. And even if you did 750 there,
Right.
that carries through pretty well on those.
yeah, so given that, because I tend to be closer than Kevin on all this stuff. I think I'm gonna change this to 10.5. Not 15. God, I love with 15.
Then we'll never leave.
the legislature didn't act on the Municipal Empowerment Act there, unfortunately, that would have been very helpful. What they're gonna do in the next session, if anything. That would have raised the hotel motel.
Yeah, option.
Given the option.
Local option.
Meals, yeah.
Yeah, we stay up,
Oh.
if my 10.5 is a good number, then we stay above 10% for a couple, through
Yeah.
27 at least, and maybe 28.
I like 10.5.
That feels a little better. Or whatever. it
Yeah.
is.
The other thing that's interesting, and Ed mentioned local state aid, is that I've been looking at the state aid, and nothing upsets me more when it's trumpeted how great state aid is. We increased, blah, blah, blah. And in looking in the last few years, if you look at the difference on if you go back up to our receipts there, and it only tells half the story. You see the difference between state aid in fiscal 24 and 25 on state receipts is a pretty bleak number,
Yeah,
very bleak.
Yeah,
yep,
And we got hit on the assessments
yep.
a little bit more, so it even gets bleaker. So I think we're in the last few years, I was looking at a net of, and I'm gonna show this in the tri-board meeting. Last few years, we were looking at, increases in state aid of, a net increase because, Kevin and I tell people, you gotta turn the cherry sheet over.
Yeah, that's
So you
right.
gotta look at page
Go to
2.
page 2 and balance it.
Legislators like to, look at the receipts.
Country representative
Whole
really
story, yeah.
blew their trumpets.
Yeah,
too.
I know. So like in fiscal 24, we had a net increase of a little over 6%. When it all shook out from fiscal 23. In fiscal 25, our net increase over fiscal 24 really dropped down to around 3.5%. So that's
is that what I did? Was 3.5 on state aid?
The net was
the net, because we got hit with
State aid
the,
number. Here it
with
is.
some of the.
You said
charter school stuff.
3.5?
School is consistently, a couple 100,000 a year, yeah.
For 25.
I'm sorry, Dan, you cut out. I think your numbers are correct. I'm saying when you match out all the net, it just hasn't been, the increase from last year to this year was not as good as we would have liked, as I would have liked. So I don't know what's going to happen next year, but I think that's something we have to lobby for, keep an eye on.
Right.
I spoke at when they came to our chamber, and I asked them to, their budget, first budget came through. They hadn't used any of the fair share amendment. I pleaded with them to do that. They did increase the chapter 78 a little bit because of that.
Yeah, he's frozen.
Yeah,
he
Dan
bounced
just
out.
bounced out. So that to me is another,
And they've got more money there to
Yeah.
send out. They need to continue to do that.
yeah,
you know?
And the fair share was at the,
millionaire's tax.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to go to.
Education.
Education infrastructure.
Invitation, and I think.
But it went to education, they got free tuition at all community colleges.
Exactly, that's, it went, yeah, so it did go to
It
education.
was a complete bait and switch.
not where we
right?
wanted.
It was billed as one thing, back to the cities and towns, if I may say so
Yeah.
directly,
Yeah.
and none of it. But there was a big, the driving and the governor was touting how the numbers are much higher in the community colleges. Well, imagine that.
Our numbers for this year on, Dan coming in? There he is. There's Dan. You back?
I'm back. I lost you there. I bet you can't see my screen anymore.
I bet we can't, but we do see you.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
Part of it.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's a plus, but all right.
Who's again? No. Yes.
Not moving.
Lost him again?
He is.
He's in
He's
and out.
still here.
He's in and out.
My other feeling is that what Dan's doing that is that there are buckets of money that you can apply for vis-a-vis grant programs at the state. They are targeted in certain areas. I mean, I would rather see it more money for the general fund and then we can figure it out, but that happens there. So that's a little balancing act as well.
How much is the increase this year on local receipts? Did you say 3.5?
On local receipts,
Or 5 to 6?
on local receipts.
Yes, sir.
Kevin and I are going.
I'm sorry, state.
State aid. State aid, when I ran the net was, and I have it at 3.5. I gotta recheck those numbers, but it's not a lot.
I did the same thing, 3.59.
3.59, okay, so I had it.
That's
Yeah.
the net.
To participants in the meeting. This meeting is being recorded. This meeting's host has enabled Zoom's AI companion technology. You have been added to the waiting room. You cannot talk or listen to.
All right. So I just tried calling in.
Okay, yeah, we got you back, Dan. I was just saying
Yeah, I
that
see
we're
that.
talking about how state aid, the net has lowered, in our opinion, from last fiscal year, between this last fiscal year and the year before. So I
Right,
think your
yeah.
numbers are fine and I would keep them that way, but I think that it's something we're gonna have to watch.
Yeah, so what I was saying, I just increased the 25 state receipts to 3.5%. Now it's at 13.9. So that helped a little bit.
Oh, did you have them flat before?
I had 3%.
Oh, you had 3, okay. On 26,
Yeah, what's,
14,447, no, that's what you had,
how much is that percentage?
That's a 3%.
3%, okay, all right, so that's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So hopefully that'll come in a little bit higher.
Yeah.
We have shared with all departments, by the way, that do not start anything new, do not hire anything new, do not pass go, do not collect $200. Basically, what's our mantra. I've met with the schools. I have reiterated to them that I expect, and I'm talking for myself, I expect all revolving funds, revolving accounts to cover those departments, including benefits, including everything. I think that's a true revolving account. That's what we do with our enterprise accounts, I should say, enterprise accounts. To cover them. I still get a little bit of blank stares. It'd be great if the subcommittee met early and often with them. Kevin and I are going to actually meet with the superintendent and his business manager early, probably within the next month, to kind of go through and what we're looking at the budget, because it's going to be we have to be very vigilant this year, because we want to make sure we have the best foot forward when we go for our AAA bond rating again in the fall. That's a real issue for the taxpayer, a real difference in their pockets.
Make a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
on the high
huge.
school.
On the high school.
Yeah, it would kill us, yeah.
After that, we can, there isn't anything new really coming up in that area.
So Dan, on the budget side, you want to just check that out, or you still want to look at this side? What I meant to say is increases for some of the budgets?
Yeah, so if I switch over to this, you can see, let me make it a little bigger. So what I've got for spending. So just the general budget, 4%. I got fire and police at 5%, based on the new contracts.
Is this year or next year?
This is for 25.
The year that we're in now. Okay, next year.
Here
same
we're
thing.
now.
Yeah.
And then I got 5% going out, beyond.
Okay.
Library 3%. Schools, I have 25 at 5.5%, and then 5% for the next couple of years because of their contract.
Yep.
Articles are at 3%. That number of elections really doesn't matter. Snow, most of the stuff is at 3%. Medicare, I've got running at 5% because of the increases in payroll. The 1.45% we have to pay. Unemployment at 3%. Reserve fund, that's just a dollar amount when we have comp. Medical insurance at 4%. The VOC, we're going to get hit again. Another 15% raise in 26 to cover the cost of the new school. And hopefully it's no more than that. Refuse at 4%, capital at 3%. I plugged in 200,000 to throw into stabilization with the increases going forward. Overlay, that cost has really been pretty much 0. 3% on state and county and cherry sheet. IT, I have 4%. Seems like that's getting expensive. Then on receipts, I've got new growth at 4%, state receipts at 4%, local receipts at 4%. Actually, state receipts I had 3. I changed that to 3.5. That should be 3.5. What do you think? Are we going to do better than 3.5% going forward? I got 4% going forward on state.
Us, we're always close to that magic number to get the big bump that some of our surrounding communities
Yeah,
seem to get every 2 or 3 years.
I'm a bridesmaid, though.
I'm okay with it, Dan,
All
for
right,
our purposes, personally.
light department, they're cheating us. Debt exclusion, Prop 2.5 at 2.3. Yeah, so nothing there. So those are the assumptions.
Okay, on capital, what's the story? We did the 2 million in the last few years, is that right?
2 million, a little bit of an increase. They want 5% a year. I'll talk to them. They're coming in to see me next week.
Oh, yeah.
We did 2,240,000.
Yeah.
But then
This
for
year, though, did they get
25,
that? Sorry.
no, well, 24 they did, but for this year, we only have 2,052,000.
But you did use some ARPA money for capital, right? So
Yeah, for some of the
240
items.
Doesn't
Yeah.
reflect that.
Yeah.
But then do you
So-
consider capital also like the road bonds that we're doing that don't fall through the capital outlay article? And the work that we do at the high school, that none of that falls through.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? That,
Yeah.
that other things are getting done. It's just not going through the capital
This
outlay
is
article.
cash capital. as opposed to
Right,
bond.
yeah,
exactly.
if you guys remember the graph I put together, what I did was take this plain capital and the percentage of budget, but then I also have two more lines that say capital plus bonds. So it shows
Right.
what we're spending, and those lines, of course, are much higher than just capital. So
Yeah,
I
right,
pick up the school spending through that on that graph.
Right. I think the capital planning committee, they'll, and I'll say to them, well, listen, we're spending $400,000 at the senior center, upgrading the rooms that aren't in use there. That's capital. So that's our capital.
But it's not in this
It's
capital.
not in that capital, it's our, so
Sorry, and that's from where, what was the money you just said?
ARPA.
Oh, yeah,
No ARPA is used in any of the budgets for fiscal 25.
correct.
Yeah.
Well, correct. I assumed that, I guess.
Yeah.
Fiscal 25, yeah.
Right, the fiscal year we're in now, and there won't be any.
And so that 26 number, which we'll be working on in the spring, right? That's a 3% increase.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this one, yeah.
Okay. I just know the list is always long. I don't.
It's always going to be long.
I don't attend the meetings regularly. Yeah, you know, I don't. Okay.
Anything else you guys want to look at? Look at this, our expenditures, 1.28 million, wow.
Mhm.
128 million bucks.
Never thought you'd see the day, right, Dan?
No kidding. I remember it was a big deal when we had hit 100 million, but that was 3 years ago.
And I know the schools, I talked to him briefly. I know they got a bunch of contracts to still settle. They got an unsigned teacher's contract,
Unsigned?
correct?
What do you mean unsigned?
They haven't signed it.
Oh,
They ratified
Really?
it, but they ratified it, but I don't believe they're getting paid. I don't think it's been completely ratified. I think that's the term I would use.
Hmm.
I don't think they've signed it yet.
Does that mean?
Yeah, what does
I
that
don't know
mean?
the-
I mean, if,
I don't know the
yeah, that
particulars.
makes, yeah, that's kind of weird that if it's all been ratified by the rank and file, why has the president not just signed it?
I don't know.
Weird.
I'm gonna try to get a cup of coffee with him.
I haven't heard that. That's news to me. So
Well,
yeah,
I'm just telling you what I hear.
I believe you. Yeah.
The other thing I was just gonna ask.
I think another thing we need to keep our eye on for the future is other costs that are going up. I'm getting nervous on trash disposal fees. So let's keep that in the back of our minds. That's in our articles section. Something I'm concerned with.
How do the articles look for 26? We got 2.7 versus the 3 the previous year. Is that what you have? Yeah. That seem in line?
I don't know of anything new,
Yeah.
but I will talk about what's going to happen in this
Yeah, no,
town
understand.
meeting. Yeah.
What about group
Oh, I
insurance for 26? Are we looking at,
Group insurance for 26, Dan?
Group insurance. Once again, I'll make it bigger. So this is what a group insurance looks like. It's the current year. So personnel, 209, 14, and then 1.4 for OPEB. In 25, we dropped the OPEB down to $1 million.
Yeah.
14.6 for everything else, and then 274 for personal services.
what
I
percentage
have this
increase
just
is
going
it?
up a modest amount, and I left the million going forward because I think last time I looked at a report, the $1 million a year gets us to full funding after something like 20 to 25 years.
2040.
What was the number for the change in expense there? What's that percentage? Kevin mentioned that.
Right, from 25.
Said it was modest. What is it, 5 to 6?
From here to here,
Yes.
V24. Let's go to V24. I've got medical 4%.
That might be something we need to take.
Yeah, it's not high enough from what you guys talked about, correct?
Well,
Yeah.
except a lot of money came back.
Yeah.
So in terms of the budget, even though the underlying cost may go up 10%, all it does is eat into how much gets returned at the end of the year. Right, Kevin?
Well,
Right, because in fiscal 25, we didn't go up 4%. I think we went up less than 2% because we had such a large return near the previous fiscal year,
yeah,
where we were returning over $1 million. But then in 25, there was a 10%, over a 10% increase.
Yeah, so
So-
we're gonna return what, a 500,000, 600,000?
In fiscal 25,
Yeah,
in fiscal 25, it was, I'm hoping we make the budget. I'm hoping we
Oh.
don't have to come back in the spring.
oh, really?
To ask for money,
Oh, wow.
because, you have these change of, what do they call them? Not change of life, but,
it's a something event.
the one-time event
Yeah.
that,
Status changes.
Qualifying
yeah.
event.
qualifying event that
Qualifying.
people,
Donald knows that language.
Yes,
Yeah.
so, it's something we're watching closely.
I don't want to underestimate it if we're not comfortable, but you're saying you got a trade-off here.
Right, but I think that number's too low going. If like Ed is saying that for the next,
8 to 10 for 3 years.
Yeah, it's the drug stuff, pharmacy, all these weight loss.
Yeah.
Huge costs
Mhm.
on the system. And you're just seeing a lot of changes in the system, merges and whatnot. Yeah, I don't know how the GIC is gonna respond, whether they're gonna up the co-pays or I don't know, but
because they didn't do that this year,
Right.
yeah, but they're gonna.
but they're gonna have to.
They're gonna
Yeah,
have
how do they keep
And they're gonna have to
that?
make some design
Right.
changes, more
They're gonna
design
have to,
changes.
yeah.
So right now I have 15.2 for 26 and a 4% increase the rest of the way, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. That might
Yeah.
have to get bumped.
Okay. Anything else to cover? Good for now?
I'm very good, thank you.
Dan?
So on the agenda, I think, what was next after the forecast? Wasn't there, something on the tri-board or?
Right, well, it's fiscal 25, fiscal year 2025 budget schedule, which I guess should be, maybe fiscal year 2026 budget schedule.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll probably be, after the tri-board, we'll probably set up maybe one more forecasting before we go forward.
Yeah, and then new year.
New year, we'll
schedule,
start, I'll put the stuff together,
relatively
yeah.
standard schedule.
Yeah.
So Steve, do you need anything more from me for the putting together a presentation for
Yes.
tri-board?
Yes, if you could, Dan, if you can send me the updated
Forecast.
forecast.
Okay,
And I think slides 29 and 30, I think that if you send that, I think I can handle the rest of the stuff.
oh, I didn't look at
'Cause I think it's
on the
under-
first
oh.
few.
You've done the first few. Thank you very much. The last two, 29 and 30, well, 29 is you kind of copy your on your forecast expenditures income. If you could do that slide 29, Dan, that'd be great.
Yeah. That was, I think, was this stuff, right?
Yes,
It was a
exactly.
forecast of,
Yeah, that's like a
it
cut
was a
and paste into
forecast of
there.
expenditures, income, deficit, that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now that we sort of pinned this down, I can send you or anybody else too, this spreadsheet, now that we've tweaked it a bit.
Yeah, I'd appreciate it. Usually send it. Thank you.
Forecast looks better than that. Does that not auto-populate maybe?
I don't know. Thought it did.
Yeah. Hey, Dan,
Yeah,
or maybe it does. The those expenditures, income, surplus, deficit
These columns in black.
columns, do they auto-populate from what happens everywhere else, or do you have to do something with them?
yeah, no, it's all automatic.
Oh, because I was thinking it looks better up top than it does down below, but maybe whatever it is, it is.
Yeah, no, this is all automatic. You see the formula
Okay.
here?
Yeah,
Yeah, this is all automatic. It all gets fed off the grand total, this tab that we've been looking at so
Yeah.
much.
doesn't include. the
Actually,
other
what I'll
stuff.
have to do is I'll have to add a year. I think if I look at this, I think I go beyond 34. I'll have to add one more year, I think. Oh, maybe not. I'll take a look before I
Okay.
send it.
That'd be great.
Because
And
every
tri-board
year,
is all Zoom.
I heard,
Yeah, so-
all Zoom.
Yeah.
I'll Zoom. So do you know who's speaking? Jim, Doug, Steve, anybody else?
You?
Oh, I get to speak? All right.
Yes, you always do.
All right. I'll just have to figure out where I am.
Yeah.
It's the
I
28th,
mean, if
right?
you can. Yep.
Do you need help? I could do it on your behalf if you're not around or whatever
Yeah.
you want.
Oh, no, I'll probably be in Minnesota or Western Wisconsin when I do it. We're staying in friends and family. The rest of the guys, I know Steve's aware, but I'm in Wisconsin because my parents celebrated their 90th birthday.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So my sister and I threw a party, and my wife wanted to drive out and see friends and family along the way, museums, Mackinac Island and the UP, and lots of other stuff. So
Wonderful.
yeah, we're taking like a 3 or 4 week road trip.
Nice.
Okay.
Last thing that I have, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, is but we will have a finance committee meeting. I can't think of the date, November
Yeah, it's third.
6th or
I
7th.
think it was the 7th.
It's been scheduled.
Yeah, it's been scheduled. I think it's November 7th. Yep. At 6 p.m.
Yeah, 7, yeah.
Yeah, there will be 1, 2, 3, 4 articles that the finance committee will be asked to make their recommendations on. The first one will be Article 2, which is using free cash to balance the budget. We kind of talked about it here. We're using 3850 mainly because of the difference in how we're handling receipts. Article 3, I'll give you a preview. We're going to request $640,000 of free cash. And that is because we are looking to put solar on the roof of the Galvin. The Galvin School was built solar ready, or solar panels on it. And it's really a really cool and a very cost-effective manner of doing it. We did go out to bid. The cost is $976,000. We're going to use $150,000 of ARPA money. We're also going to get $186,000 from the MLD because they will retire the RECs, the energy credits or whatever they are.
Right.
That brings us down to the $640,412 that we'll need to do the project through free cash. However, what's really cool is that under the Inflation Reduction Act, the municipalities, as I'm sure Ed knows, we can get tax credits from the federal government, even when we don't pay taxes. So 30% of the cost, or close to $300,000, would come off. It's non-discretionary, they say. You do it, you're going to get it. The fact that a lot of these components are made in the US may get us to bump that to 40%. I'm not counting on that. At the end of the day, we're going to get the Galvin roof done for $350,000. And our payback will be less than 4 years
Against the 350.
against the 350. The reason why I need the free cash this year is because I won't get the federal funds until
No, understood.
after the fiscal year.
Understood.
That's right.
That is a kind of a fun, that's a fun project, and that number may come down a little bit. Maybe I can move some ARPA funds over there. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Yeah, and I was telling Steve this afternoon, I heard about this. This is a great deal. I put solar into my main place, and I'm getting 25 to 30 years out of it, and my payback is about 13 years. But my nephew runs a manufacturing operation. He put solar in after I did, and his payback is like 4 years. So with all the credits and the taxes and everything else going on, it's a no-brainer to do this. I mean, after the 4 years are up, you have free electricity for like 20 plus years.
Yeah. If our community demographics were a little bit different, I think we could also get some state money for this, state grants, but we're not in the ballpark.
Doesn't fit.
The state has an interesting kind of bridge loan program.
Yeah.
That's not off the ground yet, where you can actually get the state will kind of front the money for the federal credits ahead of time. That's not even off the ground yet. And I don't have a lot of confidence that would happen this fiscal year, but I may apply if I find anyway and get it. That'll help us with our free cash at the end of the year. And then we just replenish that, pay that back at the time. So that one's a pretty easy no-brainer, I think. I do have a signed memorandum of agreement with the clerical union. It was signed by myself and the union president on the clerical contract, 3-year contract, consistent with others, 2.5%. And that's 53,941 of free cash, 6,100 of water, 6,900 of sewer. And town council has already approved that contract. All town side contracts are set, are completed. I think the DPW is up July 1. So that's a larger union, but it isn't police or fire, so it's a little bit
So
easier.
what did the clerical end up with? Over 3 years?
2.5, it's 3 years, 2.5% COLA each year. Yeah, steps at the end. I actually wanted to do some other things and smooth some other things. They ended up putting, and I was willing to put 2.5 at the end on the steps, and we ended up at 1.75. So they wanted to keep some things in the middle. I said, fine. At the end of everything's done, our free cash number will be a little over 7 million. So I'm pretty comfortable that we're still at 10% reserves overall when you add everything in, the other items in. The last article that we'll ask the FinCom to opine about is the first water bill cycle of the fiscal year was woefully low usage. They've caught up in the second round, but to be safe, we'd like to use some retained earnings, 154,000 from sewer, 495 from water, just to make sure that we're not short this year and won't need and we won't need a rate hike. But it seems like the second billing, which carries the most of the summer, seemed to come in much higher than the first billing.
And when you submit the tax recap to the Department of Revenue, when they look at the A2, they're looking at not even the first quarter or the second quarterly billing. They're looking at last year's receipts.
Exactly.
And with it,
And they look at it.
yes, so,
Every year. Yeah.
so to be on the safe side, to use this to say, we should hit what we got last year plus any percentage increase that was voted.
They will literally hold the tax rate up.
Right.
So you resolve that.
Yeah.
So that's it. Should be pretty quick. The big thing at town meeting will be the MBTA communities.
Oh, yeah.
That's after all of this stuff, right?
This is easy
Good
stuff.
luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. All right, anything else?
No, very good year, guys. I thank you very much for all your help,
Sounds good.
Yeah.
particularly Kevin.
All right, very good.
Sounds good.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 5:54, 6:54 Eastern.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. All right, have a great evening, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Dan, so
Okay.
much. Yep.
Yep.
Thank
Good
you. Bye.
Thank you, Don.